Happy St. Patty's Day, book friends. Today I am here to recommend some Irish books for your March reading. Hello, I'm Jen, and welcome back to my reading life, and welcome to a special St. Patrick's Day book recommendation video. I am here today to recommend some books by Irish authors, set in Ireland, with some sort of Irish connection. You name it, I've got it in this list, so grab yourself a cuppa. Today I have, of course, Irish breakfast tea. Let's take a little sip, shall we? I have a mix today of fiction, nonfiction, and mysteries. So hopefully you can find something in this list that you might enjoy picking up. And I'm also going to share at the end of the video a few books that are on my own personal TBR. I hope you've got your green on today so nobody gives you a pinch, and let us get into the books. I do want to say one thing before I get into this list of Irish books and authors. I am going to cover some books and authors in this video that are a bit outside of my normal cozy and comforting book recommendations that I give to you. So I just want to give that caveat. I will try to give you as much detail about the books and authors as I can so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not it's a book you would like to try reading. But just bear that in mind. If anyone has really cozy Irish books that they want to recommend, I do have a couple in this list, but I will say that I think these books kind of balance the light and darkness that we find in life. They might not be 100% cozy and comforting, but I think overall you will find some in this list that will be like that, and others that will just be good stories but maybe have a bit more tension or dynamic or darkness to them. And I just want to make sure that I mention that up front. First up is an author who I think needs no introduction. She is a very famous Irish author, and she's often compared to Rosamund Pilcher and the likes, and that is Maeve Binchy, of course. This is Circle of Friends, which was the very first Maeve Binchy novel that I read. I read it after the movie came out and absolutely loved it. Both the book and the movie are fabulous. And as I just mentioned, while Maeve Binchy does have elements of sort of coziness to her books, there is some darkness and there will be some melancholy. She is a very much laughter and tears kind of author, so I think just keep that in mind when you go into her books. Overall, I think you can count on her for a fabulous yarn that she spins, and I highly recommend, if you've never read her before, that you start with Circle of Friends. I think it's a great place to start. I have a couple other books of hers on my TBR that I'm hoping to get to sooner rather than later. I think this summer I'm gonna really try to get to this one, and that is Firefly Summer, because it has summer in the title, so summer seems a good time to read this one. It's set in 1962. We follow a husband and wife who have a pub in an Irish village, and then an American millionaire comes to town, and it seems like things start to happen. So I'm very much looking forward to this one. And I also have a collection of short stories by Maeve Binchy, which are Victoria Line, Central Line, and these are actually set in London. So I thought this would be kind of interesting to read some stories by her set in London as opposed to Ireland, because I haven't read anything by her that wasn't set in Ireland yet. So this, I think, just tells the stories of the people who ride the tube every day. It says, with her characteristic mix of compassionate humor and biting realism, Maeve Binchy enters the lives of these various travelers with outstanding results. That's a good way of putting her books. Compassionate humor and biting realism. So just keep that in mind. If you're in the mood for that, then definitely give Maeve Binchy a read. Tea break. Next up is an Irish author who I think is so fantastic at dealing with the very small, quiet moments in life. And I discovered her about 5 years ago and have absolutely fallen in love with her writing, and that is Claire Keegan. And my favorite book of hers is Small Things Like These. It is very slim. Unlike Maeve Binchy, Claire Keegan says a lot with very few words. And again, is there a little bit of sort of darkness, melancholy to her stories. Yes, there is, but I also feel like she is kind of shining a light into the darkness and giving us a glimpse of maybe something better to come. And you can choose to take it in that positive way at the end or not. That is up to you. But I also recommend by her Foster. I need to reread this. This is another fabulous Claire Keegan story. And when I read this the first time, I was worried that there was going to be something really terrible that was going to happen in this story. And it's about a young girl whose mother is pregnant with like her, I don't know, 7th child or something like that. And so this daughter is sent to stay with, I think, some relatives, aunt and uncle or something like that, who live on a farm, and they have had some tragedy in their life. And this young girl comes in, and it's just about this summer she spends with them. I just want to say, if you start this and you start to feel a sense of dread, don't. It ended up being such a different story than I kind of thought it might be. And that was actually very delightful. So again, I need to reread this one because I can read it with more lightness and ease than I did the first time I read it when I was just nervous about what was happening. So just want to put that out there. And I highly recommend Claire Keegan. And she's so quick to read. You can read her books in one sitting. So if that sounds good, definitely give her a try. And my third and final novel that I'm going to recommend in this video is one that I read last year, and this book had been sitting on my unread shelf for quite a few years and I hadn't picked it up, and I'm really glad that I finally did, and that was On Canaan's Side by Sebastian Barry. It was interesting because when I was putting this video together and I went back to refresh my memory about this book, I realized that it actually reminds me a bit of the Red Address book, which I just reviewed for you guys last week. And I'll put a link to that video here and in the description box below if you want to go and check that out and haven't already. But this book is so much better executed than that book. So in this, we are following Lily Beer. I believe that's how you say her name. So the book starts out and Lily is mourning the loss of her grandson. So she is an older protagonist who is then reflecting back on her life. And so we go back in time to her life in Ireland and then her needing to leave Ireland very suddenly at the end of World War I and come to the United States. And then we sort of discover all about her life here in the US up until the point of where she is telling the story and about her grandson and what happens to him as well. This is, again, not the most uplifting book, but I feel like it's done in a gentler way than the Red Address book. And I liked Lily as a character. I could empathize with her even if I didn't agree with every decision and choice that she made in the book. I absolutely was with her along her journey and following her life. And I definitely would like to try reading more of Sebastian Barry. His writing, again, a very literary style, again, not super light, cozy, and comforting, but if you want something with a little bit of grit to it and depth, then I definitely recommend giving this a read. It's very well done. I think this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize the year it came out. I very much enjoyed this, and I would definitely read more by Sebastian Barry. Next up, I'm going to share some nonfiction Irish books, and first up, I am going to talk about Say Nothing, a true story of murder and mayhem in Northern Ireland by Patrick Radden Keefe. Now, Patrick Radden Keefe is not an Irish author. He is a staff writer for The New Yorker, or he was, and this is his sort of journalistic undertaking of sharing his discoveries about the conflict in Northern Ireland, about the IRA. Lots and lots of information that had never been shared before was shared in this book, and it brought a lot of things to light that had happened in the conflict in Northern Ireland, which is really still going on today. And so the Protestant Catholic divide has never fully been bridged or healed, and it was so eye-opening to read this book. Now, this book is not light. It is not, it's not a super easy read, I will say, but it is incredibly engaging. I did listen to this on audio, and I recommend the audiobook. It is incredibly well done. The one caveat I would say is that if you could get a hard copy of the book, a physical copy of the book to have with you while listening to the audiobook, because I did find it difficult to keep all of the names of everybody straight. So I would sometimes feel like, who is that they're referring to again? I don't know that I will ever fully comprehend what it was and or is still like in Northern Ireland, but this book is an eye-opener. So if you are curious about the conflict, about what went on with the IRA in Northern Ireland, what life was like there, how incredibly dangerous it was, I can't even imagine. It was a complete eye-opener to me. So I highly recommend it. Again, not an easy read, but one that I think is definitely worthwhile. And I learned so much that I didn't know before. Okay, let's shake off the darkness of the IRA and let's talk about some nonfiction books that are just delightful. Now, I haven't read all of these. Actually, I've read one book by this author and I am currently reading another book, but then I have two more of her sort of memoirs that I had to buy because I just love the first book of hers I read so much. And the author I'm talking about is Alice Taylor. And the first book I read from her was The Night Before Christmas, which is all about her childhood Christmases in Ireland. And this is so, so lovely. And I have to thank one of my Book Jenny members who recommended, I think her edition was called An Irish Country Christmas, but this is the same book. This is just so charming and evocative of, you know, the days of yore, as we say. Her memoirs definitely harken back to a different time and place, and I just loved this book so very much. So then I decided to again get some more of her memoirs, and her first memoir about her childhood that I think is her most famous book is called To School Through the Fields. And I am in the middle of this one right now and loving it so very much. I'm going to read you a short little quote because Alice Taylor liked to read. She's supposed to be minding some baby turkeys because apparently turkey parents are not very good at helping their young. So on the farm she grew up on, when the turkey babies were born, they had to keep an eye on them. And so she says, I liked this job because it was leisurely and did not require a great deal of concentration, so I could take a book along with me. Sitting on the warm grass on a sunny day, reading was a pleasant way to while away the time, though occasionally I would forget what I was actually there for and would have to make a mad scramble to collect lost turkeys from all over the field. I could imagine myself doing the same thing. This is so charming and just very evocative of an earlier time and place, and I'm just really loving learning about her life growing up on an Irish farm. And each of the little chapters in this is just kind of a little vignette story about her life. So, you know, there are kind of some through threads, but it sort of follows the course of the year, and you just follow along with Alice Taylor through all the stories that she is sharing about her life. And so I have this one that I'm currently reading, and then I have two more by her. I have Country Days, and then I also have Quench the Lamp. If you can get your hands on any of her books, I highly recommend them. They remind me a bit of sort of All Creatures Great and Small, or if you enjoyed The Country Child by Alison Utley, definitely that kind of book where it's just sort of reminiscence of this country life, and in this case in Ireland, and so just heartwarming and uplifting, and just she has such a lovely voice. I highly, highly recommend her. Next up, I am going to recommend some Irish mysteries. And first up, I have two Irish authors who write mystery series. And the first author probably needs no introduction, and that is Tana French. And this is The Searcher, which is the first book in her Cal Hooper mystery series. Now, I've only read this one so far. I have book 2 on my shelf, and I believe book 3 is coming out very soon. But I like this series. Cal Hooper is a really interesting detective character. He's actually American. He's from Chicago. He worked on the Chicago police force, and now he is kind of retired to Ireland. But he gets himself embroiled in some mysteries. And so that is what we're following along with. Now, Tana French tends to be a little bit darker, so bear that in mind. Though I will say that the Cal Hooper mysteries are not as dark as her Dublin Murder Squad mysteries. This is the first one in the woods, and these are definitely darker police procedurals. And while I very much enjoyed them, I think if you don't want something quite that dark, then give Cal Hooper a try. So if you like authors more along the lines of, say, Jane Harper or somebody like that, then maybe give the Cal Hooper series a try. And then the next mystery author that I'm going to recommend is actually an Irish author who now lives in Australia, but she has a mystery series that is set in Ireland. And the first book in that series is The Ruin by Dervla McTiernan. And this is the first in the Cormac Riley mystery series. I adore Cormac Riley. This is another police procedural series that's a little bit darker, but not too dark. So if you like Louise Penny, Deborah Crombie, Elizabeth George, authors of that ilk, then I definitely would recommend giving Dervla McTiernan a read. She is fabulous. I just listened to the most recent Cormac Riley mystery on audio because the physical copies are not yet available. It takes a long time for her books to come out in the US, and I have spent a lot of time tracking down her different books. So if you are in Australia or New Zealand, definitely give Dervla McTiernan a read because I know you can get her books there. So I highly, highly recommend this series. I just like Cormac. He is just a good, solid police officer. He doesn't have a ton of the demons that sometimes follow police officers and police procedurals, and I like that about him. He's just kind of a normal guy, and I find that very endearing. So definitely give this one a read if that sounds good to you. And next up is a mystery series by an author who's actually American, though I think she has some Irish heritage behind her, but she has set her books both in the US and in Ireland, and I just love this series so much. And the first book in it is called The Mountains Wild by Sarah Stewart Taylor. I've talked about this book before, or this series before, but I think it's been a little while, so I want to mention it again here, because if you want something that's going to take you to Ireland, then this is a fantastic series to do that, because actually as the series goes on, it spends more and more time in Ireland and less time in the United States. In this first book, we're following Maggie Darcy. She is our detective protagonist that we follow throughout the series. And I think she lives in New Jersey, I want to say. And her cousin, when she was a teenager, went missing in Ireland. And at the time, she went over to see if she could, help look for her or whatever. But recently, there's been another disappearance of a young girl that is very similar to her cousin's disappearance. And so she ends up going over to Ireland now as a grown woman to kind of look into this current disappearance and also see if she can maybe track down what happened to her cousin. So that is what we are following. Again, not a light and cozy mystery. This is definitely, all of these fall into the more police procedural style. This is very propulsive. It's highly readable. I could not put this down when I read it, and I flew through this series. Every time a new one came out, I was pre-ordering it and gobbling it up as soon as it came to me. I really like Maggie Darcy. She does have some demons, but she's a very engaging main character. And I just love the fact that this spends a lot of time in Ireland, and the setting was just fantastic. So I highly recommend this if you want a book set in Ireland, though not necessarily by an Irish author. And finally, I wanted to share a few books by Irish authors that I am looking forward to reading, and then one book that I am currently reading. I just started it, but I am very much enjoying it so far. First up is a book that first came on my radar when I was a teenager. I think I saw it just sitting on the shelf at my library, and I checked it out, and then I don't know if it needed to be returned and I never got to it or what happened, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then not too many years ago, it sort of popped back up onto my radar, and I thought, oh, I want to get that book and have it so I don't forget about it again. And that book is The Country Girls Trilogy by Edna O'Brien. I have heard some mixed things about this. I'm curious if anyone has read the Country Girls trilogy and can tell me what they thought of it and if they think I'm going to like it, but I at least want to give it a try. So in this, we're following two Irish country girls, Kate and Baba. Kate is a romantic, Baba's pragmatic, and I guess they head off to conquer Dublin and the world. And I think we just kind of follow along. I think it's a bit coming of age. Just kind of we follow them as they grow up. I'm not sure how much of their lives we follow in the trilogy. It says, this is a beautiful portrait of the pain and joy of youth, the ruin of marriage gone wrong, and the ache of lost friendship and love. So I'm very curious. It's definitely one I want to get to. Next up is a book that I did not know that this person was an author. He's a very famous person and had no idea he wrote novels. And maybe you didn't know either. And that person is Graham Norton. Yes, the Graham Norton from the Graham Norton Show, the talk show, in the English talk show, British talk show. And Graham Norton is Irish, and he has written a number of novels, and this is one of them. And when I heard he was a novelist, I thought, I really want to give him a read and see what he is like. So this synopsis of this one drew me in, so I picked this up. It's called A Keeper, and it says, Elizabeth Keane returns to Ireland after her mother's death, intent only on wrapping up that part of her life. And perhaps had she not found the small stash of letters, the truth would never have come to light. 40 years earlier, a young woman stumbles from a remote stone house into the darkness and away from the cliffs and sea. She has no sense of where she is going, only that she must keep on. Very, very curious to give Graham Norton a read and see what I think of him. Has anyone read Graham Norton? Do you have a particular book of his that you love? Have you read this one? Do you think I'm going to like it? Tell me all about it down in the comments below, but I just love how sunny and happy this cover is. No idea if it's a happy read or a dark read, or I guess I will have to read it and find out. And then the final book that I'm actually currently reading, I just checked the audiobook out from my library, and I have been wanting to try this series and was worried it was maybe a little bit too much of a cozy mystery series, but I started it and I've already listened to the first couple of chapters, and I think this is going to fall right in my cozy adjacent sweet spot, and that is Murder in an Irish Village by Carleen O'Connor. This is another one where the author, I think she's of Irish heritage. I believe her grandmother was from Ireland, but she is not. But she's traveled to Ireland and she really fell in love with a specific spot there. And so she based the village that her books are set in, or this series of books are set in. And I'm very much enjoying it. Siobhan is our main character. She works in the village bistro. Her family owns it. Her parents have been killed in a car accident not too long ago, and she's sort of taking care of the family, her siblings and all of that. And the brother of the man who was drunk driving and crashed into her parents' car has just come back to town. And so that's kind of where we are right now. And he's claiming that his brother didn't do it. And so I think we're going to follow along with the story and see what happens. But I am very much invested in it already, even though I'm only a couple of chapters in. So I'm excited to see where it goes and hopefully continue on with the series. Has anyone else read this book or this series? Let me know if I have more to look forward to, but I'm enjoying it so far. And that will wrap up my Irish book recommendations for you. I would love to chat with you down in the comments. Do you have any favorite Irish books or authors? I would love to know if you have anything that's really cozy and comforting. Alice Taylor certainly falls into that category for me. I mean, Maeve Binchy is pretty cozy and comforting, but if you have any Irish authors that you can recommend that you think I will love, please let me know. And let me know if you're going to give any of the books that I mentioned here a read. I know these books are a little bit different, somewhat darker maybe than some of the books that I normally recommend, but variety is the spice of life, as they say. And if you're here but you don't have anything you'd like to add in the comments, well, of course, because it's St. Patty's Day, leave something green in the comments, some sort of green emoji, green hearts, green grass, green anything. Let us fill the comments with greenery on behalf of St. Patrick. I'm so happy that you took time today to spend it with me here in my cozy corner of BookTube. And if you enjoyed this video, if you could hit that like button, hit that hype button, and subscribe if you are new here and you would like to see more bookish videos from me. As always, I'll be back with another video very soon. And until then, I wish you a good book and a warm cuppa. Bye.